Hi, everybody, and welcome to my space. Happy Monday. I hope you're having an absolutely beautiful day and that you're enjoying the beginning to a new week. So, I wanted to talk a little bit about something that I was thinking about this morning. I woke up thinking about the moon, which is interesting because I've been having this very interesting relationship with the moon lately. Like, if you know me, you know that I love the moon and like I'm always noticing the moon, or I was always noticing the moon, and the moon was a very big part of my life, the moon cycles. And then about, I don't know, like 5 months ago, maybe, I just started realizing that I didn't have that pull towards the moon that I normally did. And like I wasn't even noticing it. I wasn't noticing it outside. Um, and it's interesting because even though I wasn't feeling that pull, the moon was still very present in my life. The moon was very much controlling, right? Or had a huge part in my emotions and my cycle and everything, because that's the truth of the moon, right? I mean, we think we don't give a lot of stock to the moon, but the moon controls the tides of the earth. So the moon is powerful. It controls all the water. And we're like 70% water, something like that. So anyway, I digress. But that's a little bit of a insight into my my own little relationship with the moon and how it's moving and transforming. But last night I was out later than I thought I would be. That's another story. But and I looked up and there was the moon, and like I noticed it. Like I didn't just go, "Oh, the moon's out." I was like, "The moon," and it's like I returned a little bit. Maybe I came back a little bit. Um, it's all good, you know. It's like I'm sharing this because I think it's important that we know that we're not always going to be in the same position. We are energy. And just like the moon controls the water, we're water. And so we're going to ebb and flow and come in and out and move around and back and forth and all of it. And sometimes we're going to be really connected and sometimes we aren't. Now, I was surprised that I wasn't connected because I'd been so fully connected to the moon for so long, but it's okay because I didn't push it. I didn't force it. I didn't berate myself. I didn't criticize myself. I just said, okay, this is where we are. And I allowed it. And I ebbed and flowed back today, or last night, I should say, at some point. And here I am wanting to do a moon message today because I woke up and I thought, you know, there is so much to release, all of us, and it can feel overwhelming. And you know, it just feels good to know that we've got some support with it. That's what the full moon is all about, is releasing and helping us to release whatever it is that we need to release, and whatever it is that it's time for us to let go. Whatever has worn its welcome and needs to go. And so I woke up thinking about that today, and I thought, you know, what do we want to release? Like what? And I don't know what sign the moon is in. I'm not really concerned about that today. You know, that's kind of not how I roll, because I'm not an astrologer, and not that you need to be an astrologer to be into that, but that's just not my thing. I just kind of go with what I'm feeling about the moon and what the moon message for me, and you know, how God wants to like set me with that message. And so what came to me today is this idea of lack consciousness. So I wrote about my journey with lack consciousness, or rather noticing when I can move it to abundance consciousness, right? And I wrote about that last week, and the amazing things that have been happening as I've been practicing that and been really aware. And, you know, I've been aware of my abundance consciousness, or replacing my lack consciousness with abundance consciousness for years. And there's still so much room to learn and so much room for improvement. And I don't ever want us to think that we're behind or that we haven't done enough, because there's always more to do. And we're always right where we need to be. So trust that. That's the first thing. Trust that you're right where you need to be. So I wrote about it last week. So if you want to read it, go and look at my Facebook page. And actually, I think I might make it a blog. I think I might put it as a blog, so you can get it on my blog. And so, sorry, I was getting a little bit off track there. So what I want to talk about is our lack consciousness and how unbelievably easy it is for us to be in lack consciousness. So I believe we're actually conditioned to be that in society. We are conditioned to kind of think that our natural set point is lack consciousness, right? It all turns during the day, whether we're on social media, whether we're watching the news, whether we're reading a publication. There's a lot of fear, right? There's a lot of fear. Uh-oh, this is going to happen. Uh-oh, make sure you're prepared for this thing. And lots of fear, lots and lots of fear. And what that does is it automatically places us in a space of lack. And it automatically puts us square into the space of our lower self, right? So whether you want to call it lower vibration or just thinking of lower ways of thinking, right? Thinking that doesn't elevate us is basically what it is. But all of the fear puts us in the place of lack, which is squarely rooted in our lower self. So those lower ways of thinking that we don't, lower ways of thinking that don't necessarily, elevate us or elevate what we want to do or how we can do it. So what I was thinking as I was thinking of this today and with the moon and how like that lack consciousness, I really want to harness this moon's energy to help me even more to plant myself in that abundance consciousness and plant myself in that space of abundance is what I was thinking of is how interesting it is as humans that no matter the abundance that we have around us, if one thing is off, that's like what we focus on, right? We focus on that one thing instead of the 50 things that are around us or the 100 things that are around us. We focus on that one that's off in some way. And that really, really pulls us into that lower vibe and into that space where we are not, up-leveled. We're not elevated, right? We're down in the muck. We're down in the dirt and the grime and all the yucky stuff. So we're really conditioned to look at what's wrong instead of what's right. All you have to do is look at, the media in any way, social or otherwise, and see that that's a lot of what's there. And I'm not talking about necessarily just with our, like on our friends' feeds and things like that. I'm talking about like the news, the content that is put in front of us for our consumption. Okay. So we really want to be aware of it. And we really want to know that we've been conditioned to look at what's wrong instead of right. So there is a part of us that's going to gravitate to that because that's how we've been taught. That's how we've been conditioned, but we can choose a new way, right? We can choose a new way and we can be very intentional about choosing our thoughts and not letting the weeds, so to speak, run amok in the garden. I always think of our thoughts like a garden. I love to think of that. I think of our thoughts in a lot of different ways. I think of them like clouds. Like we want beautiful, soft, fluffy summer clouds as our thoughts rather than heavy, dark rain clouds, right? One is like bringing us up to our up-leveled self. It's elevating us. And the other one is weighing us down, right? And if you think about a garden, when you've got a garden, you want your garden area to be so full of beautiful plants that you want to cultivate, right? That you've intentionally planted to cultivate a harvest of some sort, right? An abundant harvest of fruits, vegetables, flowers, whatever it is. But you've intentionally planted those and you want to cultivate it. And so what do we want to do? We want those plants to grow so big that there's not a lot of room for weeds, because that's the truth of it. When you've got a garden, if the plants are big and healthy and taking up the space, the weeds don't come in at the same rate. They are small and far and few between. And so that's what we want the landscape of our mind to be. We want the landscape of our mind to be those soft, fluffy, beautiful summer clouds that are light and move easily and elevate us. And we want our garden, if that's the metaphor that we like, we want it to be so full of beautiful, abundant thoughts that there's no room for lack. And let me say this, the lack thoughts will come, but they don't take root. That's the important piece. They don't take root. We're not so heavy that they can just take root and start blooming all over the place. And pretty soon we have a garden full of weeds, which is not what we want, right? So, the way that I love to look at this with lack consciousness versus abundance consciousness is, one is rooted in fear and heavy, and it weighs us down and it drags us down into the muck and the dirt and all the yuck. The other one is gratitude. That's what really abundance consciousness is rooted in, is gratitude. And it elevates us and it makes us feel light and happy and joyful and in love with life and everything around us. So let's take this moon cycle and let's really use it to our advantage. And let's hold the intention to bring in more abundance consciousness. Now, I know that the full moon is all about releasing, but I don't really want us to focus on the releasing right now. I want us to focus more on the bringing in. Like, let's let go of the trash. We don't need to know exactly what it is. We don't need to name it. Let's let go of the trash so that we can bring in more of what we want. That's what we want to name. We want to name what we want. Do you want to bring in, you can have something physical that you want to bring in. Maybe you want to bring in a new person for, an opportunity in your life. Maybe you want to bring in money. Maybe you want to bring in a new home, a new pair of shoes, a new bag, whatever it is, right? Know what it is. It might be something physical. It might be a feeling or an essence, right? An emotion. So it might be that you want to bring in more peace. You want to bring in more joy. You want to bring in more love, whatever it is. Let's focus on that for this 2 weeks. And every time that we find ourselves in that space of lack, right? Which is essentially fear of not having enough, maybe not going to be enough, whatever it is, for this instance of lack consciousness. But whenever we find ourselves in that, let's pluck that little weed and move to a space of abundance. And the way that I love to do this, it's really hard when we're not seeing with these human eyes all of the plethora of abundance around us and all of the things that we have to be in gratitude for, because we're focusing on something else, right? Something that is that we're in lack about, right? And that's okay. But when we don't want to try to force ourselves, when we notice that we're in lack, we don't want to try to force ourselves to go to gratitude. That can be a little bit tricky. And that can also, not work so well because we're forcing it. And forcing very seldom really works, right? We want to be gentle and we want to be purposeful and intentional. And that doesn't mean to not do anything. We want to do stuff, but we don't want to force it. We want to persuade ourselves there, and we want to gently move ourselves towards it. So what I like to do is when I find myself in lack consciousness, especially if I feel it like really deep, like this is something that I've been ruminating about for a while or that's been coming up, I like to take like 2 to 3 minutes, hand on heart, take nice, deep, diaphragmatic breaths in through the nose, out through the nose, expanding that belly as big as I can, and then letting the belly naturally, compress back. And I like to think about something that I love that brings me joy, that puts me in that space of abundance. So this can be an experience that I've had. It can be someone I love. It can be something I love. It can be a movie that I love. Whatever it is that I can connect to easily, right? That I don't have to force. It's just boom, it's there. My heart's expanding. I can feel that heart center expanding the more I think about it. And the more I think about it, the more that I breathe it in, the bigger my heart center gets. That puts us in gratitude. That puts us in the space of abundance consciousness. That grows our fluffy, beautiful summer clouds that elevate us. And that also grows all those beautiful, abundant plants that we want to grow, that we've intentionally planted in our garden. So just a nice little tool, something easy to help you during this moon cycle. And, give me some comments. What do you guys think about this? What do you think about this lack consciousness versus abundance consciousness? And is it easy for you to get out of it? Is it a challenge? Where are you at? Be honest and let's just share about it and, see where we're at and see what's going on. So, thank you all so much for being here. Hope you have an absolutely beautiful Monday. The full moon starts tomorrow, but don't forget that the energy of the moon, right? It's not just for today or for the day of the full moon, which is actually tomorrow. It's not just for tomorrow. I always feel it like 3 to 4 days before and 3 to 4 days after. The moon is powerful, and it really can have a big effect on us, and it can have a big lack effect, right? It can affect us in a way that we don't think is too positive, or it can have a really positive effect on us. I believe that's up to us and how we look at it and how willing we are to kind of partner with the moon and let it be a support and a help and a friend, rather than like a nuisance or a detractor or something that makes us feel crazy, right? Because it is about emotion. So it is going to bring all those waters up and all those watery parts of us. And that can be a little overwhelming sometimes and feel hard. But if we are willing to sit in it and be with it, we can learn to navigate those waters. It's no different than being in a tidal wave or a jetty or different things in the water that swirl you around. When you get into those, the more you try to get out, the farther you go into it. What you really want to do is relax and let it work its way, right? You with it. If you relax and let it move you, it will move you out, right? The moon is the same way. It's bringing all the water up in us so that we can see what we need to see what we want to see, really know what we want to let go of, right? And be intentional about what we want to bring in. So again, today with this moon, I'm inviting you to, along with me, not focus so much on what I want to let go on, but focus on what I want to bring in. What do I want to bring in? What is the physical thing? What is the feeling, the essence, whatever it is? What do I want more of during this cycle? That's what we want to focus on. So thank you for being here. If you watched the live or you enjoy the replay, either way, I appreciate you. And let me know if there's anything I can help you with. This can be a really trying time, these full moons. So, I'm here if you need help. Thank you.